Based on a true story. Feeling ugly and ashamed of his dark skin, a young boy grows up being bullied and pushed aside. He is mocked every day, treated like he does not belong. At one point, he even tries to cover his face with white powder, hoping it will help him make friends. It does not. The humiliation only gets worse until one day he decides he has had enough. Years later, that same boy will rise to a place where white men answer to him. Between the 1960s and 1980s, immigration to England increased rapidly. This triggered harsh reactions from far-right groups, who openly spread anti-immigrant messages and often turned to violence. Because of this climate, thousands of Nigerian families made a painful choice. They entrusted their babies to white British families, hoping their children could grow up safely, receive a proper education, and escape discrimination. One day after placing an advertisement in a newspaper, a Nigerian couple arrives at the home of a British family who agreed to foster their baby. The father explains that their child will stay there while he and his wife finish their studies. They promise to visit as often as they can and to send money every month. With tears in her eyes, the mother finally hands over her beloved baby.
Over there. What's his name?
His name is Enito.
It's just until we finish our studies.
Good morning. Yeah.
This is the beginning of his life away from home. This is farming. 8 years later, the boy, now named Enitan, has grown into the biggest child in the house. His foster mother, Ingrid, clearly dislikes him. Enitan is quiet, withdrawn, and often hides behind the sofa, barely speaking. Over time, his biological parents stop visiting as frequently, buried under work and distance.
Divvy Cods! Get from behind there.
Saying he's got an imaginary friend, so?
Lingle, shut that baby up.
Too bleeding busy trying to become lawyers instead of visiting their boy. Anyway.
One day, Ingrid takes advantage of Enitan's innocence and asks him to steal from a jewelry store. Without being noticed, he manages to sneak out with a gold necklace. But when he returns, Ingrid slaps him hard because he was seen. Even though he is treated unfairly again and again, Enitan keeps trying to please her. He becomes the most obedient child in the house, always sweeping the floor and doing chores without complaint.
Do you want to be Mummy's favourite?
Don't bleed out.
Sorry. Well, you got Mummy in trouble, didn't you?
A few days later, Enitan comes home during school hours. This time, he has stolen another gold necklace on his own, hoping it will earn him affection. He gives it to Ingrid and hugs her tightly. Surprised, she allows him to spend time playing behind the sofa. But later that day, Enitan sees the necklace around the neck of Ingrid's favorite child. Crushed by disappointment, Enitan runs into the street. There, he is surrounded by a group of white children who immediately bully him. They even order their dog to attack him.
Baby, hey?
Told you not to walk down it. Can you get him, Sheila?
Enitan is left with severe injuries that require stitches. Ingrid wants to retaliate, but her husband stops her. Instead, Enitan is ordered to stand up and sent out alone. He is told not to come home until he has taken revenge. Terrified, Enitan ends up sitting alone outside the house, with no one by his side. On a holiday morning, Enitan takes his younger siblings and friends out for a walk. When they see a rainbow reflected in a puddle, they quietly make wishes. When Enitan returns home, he finds his biological parents waiting. Without warning, he and his two siblings are taken back to their home country. Back in Nigeria, Enitan feels completely out of place. The cultural difference overwhelms him. His traditional grandfather orders a ritual prayer. As drums echo around him, Enitan's chest is cut with a sharp razor blade. He cries in pain, unable to resist or understand what is happening.
These are your sisters.
Months pass, and Enitan still does not speak. Just like when he first arrived, he remains silent and withdrawn, a passive child who looks constantly anxious in his new surroundings. At school, when asked his name, he says nothing. The teacher punishes him by forcing him to stand in front of the class. The pressure escalates, and when Enitan is threatened again to speak, something inside him finally snaps. In a sudden outburst, he grabs the teacher's stick and attacks him.
Name.
Akinsa.
Name. Answer me, what's your name?
You talk.
Out of desperation, Enitan's father makes a painful decision. He chooses to send his son back to England. His mother strongly disagrees, but they have no other option. For 6 months straight, Enatan has not spoken a single word. He has completely shut himself off. When Enatan returns to England, Ingrid and her friends are shocked. They notice the scars on his chest and how much darker his skin has become after months in Nigeria. Their laughter cuts deep, and in that moment, Enatan fully realizes that he was born different. He runs to the bathroom and scrubs his skin with soap over and over again, but no matter how hard he tries, his skin does not turn white. That same day at school, Enatan covers his face with thick white powder. His classmates burst into laughter, mocking him without mercy.
African, you what?
The inner conflict never leaves him, and it continues to grow as he gets older. 8 years later, Enatan enters his first year of high school. By now, the pain has twisted into anger. He insults his own black teacher using the same slurs that were once thrown at him. A fight breaks out among the students until the principal steps in. Because of his constant trouble, Enatan is immediately suspended. While standing in the schoolyard, Enatan notices a group of people watching from behind the fence. They are members of a skinhead gang, openly hostile toward immigrants. A police officer approaches to warn them, but they respond with open defiance. At home, Ingrid breaks down in tears over the foster child she once favored, who was sent back to Africa. When Enatan arrives, her grief quickly turns into anger, and he becomes the target of her frustration. No matter how hard he tries, he has always been the one blamed.
I wish they'd taken him. Pig.
The next day in the parking lot, a black teacher named Miss Dapo notices something strange. Enatan is hiding behind the trees. When rain begins to fall, he reluctantly gets into her car. Despite having been insulted by him before, Miss Dapo treats him with warmth and patience, asking about his dreams for the future. Enatan admits that he wants to become a famous painter. When asked if he has any friends, he answers without hesitation. He does, but they are imaginary, created during the lonely hours spent behind the sofa. Moments later, Enatan leaves without saying goodbye. From a distance, the leader of the skinhead gang, Levi, spots his target. Enatan is quietly drawing in an open field when the group suddenly surrounds him.
Why did you call me a black bastard?
That's what you are.
Friends?
Yeah, loads. My imagination's my friend.
What you wanted to be growing up as a boy, Annie?
Drawer.
Where do you think you're going?
They drag him into an alley and strip him. With Levi's foot pressed against Enatan's neck, the message is clear. In their eyes, black people are seen as pests that must not spread. To them, Enatan's very existence is something that needs to be erased. Frozen with fear, Enatan can do nothing but stay silent. He expects the worst. But instead of pulling out a knife, Levi takes out a can of spray paint. They cover Enatan's entire body in white paint while laughing at him. At the same time, his foster mother Ingrid is out enjoying herself with friends and the child she favors most, who has recently returned. She talks about her life openly, explaining that after losing 2 pregnancies, she and her husband no longer want to take risks. That is why she chooses to foster children for money instead.
To me, second miscarriage, Jack would risk it.
What are you looking at for, Ice?
Because Enatan is still suspended from school, he spends his days lying around outside the building. When the school bell rings, he prepares to leave, but then he sees Levi and the gang passing by. He hides behind the trees. After forcing himself to be brave, Enatan shouts at them. The skinheads are startled for a moment, then they burst out laughing. Enatan suddenly pulls out a hammer. Levi steps closer, holding a weapon of his own. The moment they face each other, Levi headbutts him hard, knocking Enatan to the ground. While other gang members block Miss Dapo and the students, Levi forces Enatan to shout racial slurs as loudly as he can. Under the threat of a weapon, Enatan obeys, completely powerless. Afterward, Levi whistles as if calling a pet. Enatan follows the signal and sits beside him.
What you lanky git? What happened, Levi? Yes!
Louder.
Louder! I'm a
It's a fucking walk dog.
A few days later, Enatan is posted outside as lookout while the skinheads rob a post office. They rage inside, threatening the workers until the money is handed over. When a police officer tries to intervene, the gang only laughs. Then Enatan notices members of the Greyskins, a rival gang. Without hesitation, he joins in and attacks the police officer until he loses consciousness. The gang leaders are pleased, but they are forced to flee when their enemies approach.
Give me the money! Give me the fucking money!
Grey skins!
Later at a scrapyard, the skinheads celebrate their successful robbery in enemy territory. Women join them as they drink, relax, and indulge themselves. This place is their regular hideout. Sitting above everyone else, Levi ignores his girlfriend Grace, leaving her visibly frustrated. Bored and bitter, she makes crude comments about black men to her friend. Curious, Grace approaches Enitan and humiliates him further. Levi immediately shows his anger, forcing her to back off. Not long after, a man arrives dragging a pig behind him, offering it to the gang leader as a trophy from a theft. With a cruel grin, Levi orders Enitan to perform a degrading act with the animal. The gang surrounds him, laughing and pressuring him. Cornered and overwhelmed, Enitan suddenly kills the pig without thinking. Shaking with fear, he shouts a supremacist slogan, trying desperately to fit in. Levi quickly shuts it down, refusing to be associated with German Nazis. Instead, he chants the name of his own gang, and everyone follows.
Fuck the pig.
Tilbury skins.
Tilbury skins.
Tilbury skins.
Tilbury skins.
After a long search, Miss Dapo finally finds Enitan's home. Ingrid refuses to let her inside and only speaks through the window. Miss Dapo explains everything with deep concern, sharing that she once endured similar abuse as a black woman herself. Ingrid refuses to accept any blame and abruptly ends the conversation. Meanwhile, Enitan slowly blends into the very gang that hates his own race. He is willing to do anything just to be accepted by them. School no longer matters to him, even though his suspension has already ended. One day in the school parking lot, Miss Dapo is surprised to see Enitan waiting for her. She quickly writes down her phone number so he can reach out anytime. But Enitan is not alone. He arrives with his gang, turning the moment into another act of bullying. The black teacher is mocked and pushed around while Enitan stands by without caring. The skinheads laugh loudly as Miss Dapo panics and tries to escape. A few days later, while heading home, Ingrid sees a group of skinheads provoking black pedestrians. She freezes when she realizes Enitan is among them. A violent fight breaks out between both sides and Ingrid quickly runs away. Soon, only one black man is left, desperately trying to escape. He reaches a dead end and can only beg for mercy. Enitan shows no hesitation, even though the man shares his skin color. He kills him without remorse.
We're not friends, you white bastards!
In front of the skinheads, Enitan throws around the stolen money. He watches with satisfaction as they scramble for it, as if he is now the one in charge. The next day, Ingrid is shocked when she enters Enitan's room. The walls are covered in drawings, and among them is a photo of Grace, the girl he secretly admires. Ingrid begs Enitan to stay away from crime, but he ignores her completely. Frustrated and angry, she reminds him that she keeps him only because of his younger siblings. Enitan refuses to listen and walks out. That same day, the gang leader shows off a new pet, a snake, playing with it proudly as they walk. Soon after, they spot a group of teenagers, including Enitan's own younger sister. Without hesitation, Enitan throws a bottle at her while hurling insults.
You're cooling at your monkey sister.
Later that night, the skinheads party at a bar. Levi continues playing with his snake and pays even less attention to Grace. Not long after, Levi's father arrives to warn him that the Grayskins are planning an attack. Levi brushes it off calmly, convinced they are all talk. His father then questions why a black boy is with them. Enitan responds by loudly chanting a white supremacist slogan, followed by the rest of the gang. Even so, Levi's father remains unhappy, deeply opposed to immigrants. At the same time, inside a warehouse, the Grayskins gather and prepare their weapons. They are led by a man named Bomber. That night, the skinheads are meant to pay for robbing territory that does not belong to them. In a restroom, Enitan is suddenly approached by Grace. He tries to ignore her as she continues to pursue him. When he attempts to leave, she blocks him and forces herself on him. Enitan pushes her away and leaves immediately. The rejection leaves Grace in tears. Not long after, the Grayskins storm into the bar. A brutal fight erupts without warning. Trapped in the chaos, Enitan spots a Molotov nearby. In a split second, he throws it. Bomber is engulfed in flames, burning alive. Because of what happened at the bar, the skinhead gang is taken into police custody. After questioning, an officer orders everyone to leave except Enitan. He is left waiting alone. After some time, Ingrid arrives to take him home. For days afterward, Enitan locks himself in his room, Curling up in silence, he starts thinking about Miss Dapo and the kindness she once showed him, and for a moment, he considers asking for her help. Before he can act on it, voices call out from outside. The skinheads have come to pick him up. Ingrid tries to stop them, but Aniton ignores her and steps forward, taking the lead.
You big boys got nothing better to do than hang around with kids. Back inside.
After already dealing with the police once, Ingrid becomes terrified of losing custody of her other children. To protect them, she decides Aniton must be reported so he can be detained. She also plans to contact his biological parents so he can be taken away. Meanwhile, the skinheads march through the streets, loudly chanting their gang's name with pride. From another direction, the gray skins move in as well. Tonight, both gangs are heading toward another violent showdown to decide who comes out on top. When they finally face each other, Levi pulls out a knife, signaling that the fight should begin. The new leader of the gray skins steps forward and demands a duel with Aniton. He is the one who burned Bomber alive, and now he must pay for it. Despite objections from others, Levi orders Aniton to represent the gang. Without hesitation, Aniton steps forward, and the fight explodes almost instantly. Moments later, every member of both gangs charges in, turning the clash into chaos.
That Mesh was a fucking psycho.
I thought he was still locked up.
He's a...
As night falls, Aniton staggers away alone, his body covered in wounds. The battle is over, and the skinheads have defeated their rivals. But Levi has deliberately abandoned Aniton, leaving him to be beaten and broken. Furious, Aniton lashes out at Levi, calling him a coward. That insult ignites Levi's rage. He rises and attacks. Aniton strikes first, knocking Levi to the ground. The two grapple violently, struggling over a knife. In the end, Aniton stabs Levi without hesitation. As the skinheads stare in shock, Aniton takes Levi's pet snake from his bag. Levi lies helpless on the ground, a knife buried in his stomach. Through tears, Aniton shouts the name of the gang he once fought so hard to belong to.
You left me.
Don't be scared! Don't be scared! Don't be scared!
When he returns home, Aniton goes straight to the backyard and gently places the snake into its cage. But his return is no longer welcome. Ingrid tries to drive him out. Aniton retreats behind the sofa, just like he did as a child. Soon after, the police arrive and arrest him. A few days later, Aniton's biological parents arrive at the police station. As they try to calm him, Aniton suddenly lashes out and escapes, running into the streets. When he reaches the cage, Aniton discovers that his snake has been brutally killed. He breaks down, crying as he drapes the lifeless body around his neck. Not long after, the skinheads learn where he is and immediately set out to hunt him down. After wandering for hours, Aniton finally reaches a scrapyard. He sits alone, lost in thought, with no one by his side. Soon the skinheads appear in the distance. Overwhelmed by despair, Aniton decides to do the unthinkable. Just before he loses his life, the police arrive in time to save him. He is taken to the hospital where his mother stays by his side. 6 months later, Aniton is released early from juvenile detention. He is taken to a special school where Miss Dapo is already waiting for him. Overwhelmed by guilt, Aniton finds himself unable to speak. Miss Dapo gently explains that she has been entrusted with guiding and educating him. Aniton breaks down in tears. Miss Dapo understands that he has carried deep trauma for most of his life. She patiently helps him see that his life has value and that he is not defined by his past.
I'd like to welcome you to Brighty Institute, Annie. I believe in you. I know it's a lot.
I can't love it.
It's okay.
Over the following months, Miss Dapo's steady support begins to change Aniton, little by little. Every insult and every act of bullying he endured as a child becomes fuel instead of a wound. He channels his pain into learning, growing in his own way as a black man finding his identity.
There's nothing you're going to achieve now, Aniton.
3 years later, Enaton earns a master's degree in law. What began as a small act of kindness from Miss Dapo ends up healing a deeply wounded childhood. Enaton eventually reconciles with Ingrid and his biological parents. He then chooses to return to Nigeria, dedicating his life to serving others. Over time, his work earns him widespread recognition and numerous honors. So the moral of the story is that trying to impress the wrong people can turn your life into a mess faster than white powder, bad gangs, and extremely poor life choices combined.